Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is the middle of the week, which of course means it is match preview show time. And we're back on our home patch this coming Saturday as we take on Andy Whing's Barrow. But obviously, there's a slight anomaly because we played our midweek league fixture last Saturday due to FA Cup exit. But there are games going on throughout the week. But I'm pleased to say, first and foremost, returning to the channel is friend of the show now, I suppose I have to say, to preview the Barrow game, and that is Taylor Nelson. Welcome, Taylor.
Yes, thank you for having me on once again. Good to
No,
be back.
no problem at all. Appreciate your time. Yeah. So Taylor's details for X are down there as always in the description at the bottom of the video. Please go and give him a follow. Yeah, Taylor, at the time of recording, obviously you've not played your midweek game. So normally I look at last six, but yours is slightly different. So I'll do the Gills quickly. Gills have taken 7 points from the last 18 available. That's come in the way of a win against Bristol Rovers, four draws on the bounce against Crawley, Barnet, Shrewsbury, and Colchester. And before that, there was a home defeat against Salford City. So we currently sit sixth place before the midweek games with 29 points from 19 games. Your last six, I've included Tranmere with a question mark next to it, but apart from that, it's 3 points from 15. So it's not great at the moment. Been draws all by the same scoreline, 2-2 with Barnet, Grimsby, and Newport, and there's been a couple of defeats to Bromley and Cambridge United, and you're currently 20th, no, 18th, sorry, with 20 points from 18 games. How have you how have you gauged the season so far? Because it's been a weird one for Barrow because five without a win at the moment. But if you look at the Barnet draw at the start of that winless run, plus Grimsby before it, they were part of a 7 game unbeaten run where you took 13 points from 21 available. So it's feast or famine somewhat at the moment. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I feel like it sums us up pretty well. Sort of just inconsistency, and I think that's what you'd expect from sort of a mid-table team, and that's
Mhm.
kind of where I thought we'd be at the start of the season. Just comfortably mid-table. At the moment, given sort of the run that we're on, you are sort of looking down rather than up.
Mhm.
And there are slight murmurings of worry and discontent at the moment. Um, but hopefully we can arrest those starting tonight against Tranmere. And it'll give us a bit of a boost going into the weekend. But in the minute, yeah, like you say, it is very much feast or famine. We it's so difficult to gauge this team at the minute. You mentioned sort of a number of draws where we've scored a couple of goals, 2-2 draws, yet we're not a good attacking team. We're struggling for goals. We don't look dangerous going forward. And we're looking somewhat slack at the back as well. So it's difficult to sort of gauge where our strengths are at the minute, because we're not attacking well. We are conceding goals. So it's difficult, like I said, to gauge where we are. And that is sort of what you would expect from a mid-table team. So it sums us up.
Yeah, and I suppose the concern in that run of 5 games is you've conceded two in each of them. So, I mean, you can't go along conceding two a game and expect to be anywhere more than probably sort of bottom third of the table over a 46 game campaign, can you? You've mentioned your league position. You currently sit 18th. You're 4 points off the bottom two, which is the relegation zone. And like you say, there's been murmurings, which is understandable. No one wants to get relegated once we take out the extra layers of, size of club, infrastructure, budget, and all that type of thing. And it's fair to say, and I mean it with the utmost respect, that Barrow are one of the smaller fish in the pond. Um, but equally, you're only 6 points off the top half. Such is the nature of League Two so far this season. It's a ridiculous league. What have you made of it so far overall? And does that then make it harder to almost gauge what your aspirations are for the season? Because you probably had an idea start of the season, morning of the 2nd of August. But then because there's such a cluster of teams that are all within touching distance of each other, it makes it difficult to read because, like you say, you could beat Tranmere, come to us and get something at the weekend, and you could jump 4 or 5 places. But you go the other way, lose both, and suddenly you're properly in a relegation battle.
Yeah, I mean, League Two is quite often, that it is one of those leagues where a couple of results will propel you up the table or drop you down the table. It's pretty much always been that way, but this season's no different. You sort of have the few teams that you expect to be up there, but not necessarily. That hasn't necessarily been the case. There are a couple of teams that you'd expect to be sort of firing on all cylinders that haven't necessarily sort of got to grips with the season just yet, haven't shown what the utmost best at the minute. The likes of MK Dons you'd probably expect to be sort of flying away with the league, but haven't necessarily done that so far. Um, so it makes for an interesting league, and I feel like we're still sort of, even though we are sort of reaching sort of January now, we're not too far off that midway point. I feel like we're still sort of working out where certain teams are sort of in the division, purely because it is so tight, and no one has necessarily um, got to that point where they're getting a good consistent run of games going. It is you taking two steps forward and two steps back in a lot of cases. Um, at one time, Bristol Rovers were up there, looking like they were going to sort of push on up the table, and they've ended up doing the complete opposite. So I feel like they're just one of a number of teams that have shown sort of what this season is panning out to be like. You really don't know sort of what's to come around the corner at the minute. And it isn't just us, it is Bristol Rovers, and a number of other teams that haven't necessarily got going, and you do sort of expect the quality to eventually come through for a number of teams, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's teams that I had placed low that are doing really well. Walsall being a prime example. I thought they'd have a hangover after their collapse last season. They're top of the league. You then look at Bristol Rovers. Um, like you say, I think all their points have come in a 7 game unbeaten run in the middle of the games they've played so far. Aside from that, it's been 10 defeats, which is absolutely horrific. Chesterfield, I think, were in the automatic places about a week or two ago. Now they're 10th. It's mental. It's a mental league. Andy Whing, your current boss, replaced our former boss back in January, Stephen Clements. So he's had 11 months in charge now. Um, how well has he done? And again, it comes back to, with the most respect, you're a small club in the EFL pond. You're a small club in the League Two pond. So how impressed have you been with him? Has there been a complete shift of style and change and approach since Wing took over from what you saw previously with Stephen, or was it a case of more tweaks than wholesale changes?
Yeah, I think when he came in, he did sort of galvanise a group of players and sort of steady us. We were looking like a team that were um, just sliding down the table and had absolutely no confidence when he initially came in. He steadied that ship, and we ended up being one of the better teams in the division come the end of the season, form-wise. I
Mhm.
think if you looked at when he came in until the end of the season, I think we were somewhere like seventh or eighth in the table, form-wise, which really sort of summed up just how well he did to galvanise this group of players, steady the ship, and have us playing some good football, if I'm completely honest. This summer then came along. We had pretty much a blank canvas to work with. A lot of players went out the door, whether they were released or whether they went on to bigger and better things. We lost some very key players, the likes of Keane Spence moved on, Robbie Gotts, Dean Campbell, they all moved on to League One opposition. Um, they were huge losses, but the opportunity to work with a blank canvas was something that I personally saw as something massively exciting. It was a massive opportunity for Wing to find a group of players that he thought would work well in his system
Mhm.
and really work with that. Unfortunately, recruitment has been sort of a letdown for us for a number of years now. And I think this summer has particularly been disappointing. When you look at the players that have come in, a lot of them just really haven't got going. We've seen Regan Booty come in and go straight out on loan to Boreham Wood because he just hasn't got going. He's dropped out of the team, and inevitably has been moved on. And the chances are that he'll probably end up going to Boreham Wood permanently, given how well he's playing there at the minute. Um, but he's just one of a number of players that just hasn't got going for us. And like I say, recruitment has been a problem for some time. There's been a lot of criticism towards the sporting director, Ian Wood, which I feel is very much justified.
Mhm.
He's sort of the lead when it comes to recruitment, and unfortunately, it just hasn't been good enough for far too long. Recently, we've sort of ended up going down this path of um, recruiting players that we've had previously, bringing them back. And it hasn't just been players, it's been staff wise as well. If all else fails, bring someone that we know back. we must have probably the smallest contact book within the EFL as a result. So to be fair, I think Andy Whing has got a difficult card, a difficult hand at the minute. So it's difficult to criticise him because I do feel that he doesn't have much of a say when it comes to the recruitment. And I think that's why we saw Pete Wild leave when he did. I do think that was largely a reason for that, the lack of say when it came to recruitment. And yeah, Wing's doing all he can. He's got a system of which he's basically being forced to play because we don't have a natural right back. So we're having to play sort of the three at the back with wing backs because we don't have a natural right back. So we're seeing players like Tom Barkes and they're very good players having to play in positions that probably don't suit them as well as if they were higher up the pitch. Um, so it's easy to say, well, obviously, you do have to have some level of criticism towards the manager
Mhm.
when results aren't going well, but the hand he's been dealt just isn't great. And I do feel that things won't change regardless of who's in charge until changes are made higher up and recruitment changes because that is largely the issue at the minute.
Sounds similar to us when before the Gallinsons took over, where you're almost, and I don't know how you feel, but it always felt we were at the point where we were just getting the players that no one else wanted, that were left, like essentially bargain basement that no one was touching with a barge pole. So then you're looking at down the thing that is the motivation still there? Are they injury prone? Are they just crap, for want of a better word, unfortunately, or a mixture of all three? And that's never a good starting place, is it? Unfortunately, um, you've mentioned players returning, staff returning, and I did have a little nose on your X profile, and you used the contact book phrase on there regarding the return of Neil McDonald for a third spell as coach, joint assistant manager. Is that correct? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. If I mean, I think you've answered it already, but my question was, can you just care to elaborate on that? So obviously, I think you have to a degree. He's saying it that the budget is so low and the recruitment process is so poor that the easy option is to just to go back to people because you know them from previous spells. But we all know that that doesn't always mean success.
No, it certainly doesn't. I feel like obviously we brought Rob Kelly back for a brief time before he joined up with Liam Richardson at Reading.
Mhm.
And he sort of was part of that run of games where we were getting positive results.
Mhm.
Um, but now we've sort of ended up going down this route of bringing someone else back to replace him that we know. It just feels lazy to me. It just feels very lazy. And like you were saying a moment ago, with regards to recruitment, it does feel like we've sort of ended up with these players that won't necessarily be picked up by other clubs. A lot of the players that we signed in summer come with long injury records and
Mhm.
concerns with injuries and various things like that. And we've seen those players already go out with injuries. And at the start of the season, we were really struggling with fitness and injuries. Um, Not too long ago, we only could name five players on the substitute bench. Obviously, due to the EFL regulations, we can only name six anyway. So to see that we could only name five was even more of a concern. Um, but yeah, it's just frustrating at the minute. It does feel like we've gone backwards as a football club.
Mm.
We under Pete Wild, we seem to really sort of professionalize and really sort of establish ourselves as an EFL team, whereas now it feels like we're operating like we're a National League team again, playing within League Two. It's just quite concerning, and I'm hoping that things do change, but yeah, there's a lot of concern for me sort of off the pitch at the minute when it comes to just how we're sort of operating and various things like that.
Yeah, which is a shame because, like you say, you go back to 22, 23, and 23, 24, and I think you was on the verge of the playoffs in both seasons. I think we spoke, didn't we, previously, and you collapsed at the end of each of them seasons, but they were still good campaigns based on the size of Barrow against what they was up against. I mean, that 23, 24 season was, I think we had Wrexham, Stockport, Mansfield that all run away with the automatic places. So, yeah, massively punching above your weight, like you say. So it must be frustrating because it's only 2 years since then And like you say, you feel like you're going backwards quickly as well. And yeah, I always feel when you're buying a player, and if you go, oh, if we can just get him back to the levels of 5, 6 years ago, then you know that there's a quite a high element of risk. And I'm just looking down your squad. Obviously, Tyler Walker's one, Tom Barkhuizen's probably one, Kane Hemmings would be another one. But there are some good players. I mean, Will Stanway as a goalkeeper, I like. I believe he's the brother of England Lionesses Georgia Stanway, if I'm correct. And I thought Charlie Raglan looked like a really good bit of business back in the summer. I mean, is it fair to say that Stanway's probably been your best player? And
Yeah, by far and away, Stanway has been brilliant. I think when he played against Walsall the other week, I think a stat came out that he made the most saves in that game, and that's the most saves made within the top four divisions of England or something like that.
okay,
He's a great goalkeeper, and his ceiling is very, very high. We'll do very, very well to keep hold of him
he made
going forward.
10 saves in 90 minutes in that Walsall game. Yeah, I just had a quick look because you said it was a ridiculously high number. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
like him. Yeah, I do like him. I think he's very, very good goalkeeper.
Yeah, it did feel like it was 10 saves, especially towards the back end of that game. He really kept us in it.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like with Stanway, the reason we have such a capable backup in Winterbottom is because we realise his potential is so high, and there will inevitably be suitors for him going
Hmm.
forward. So we have a ready-made backup for if that day does come, which it will. We'd be kidding ourselves if we think we're going to keep hold of him sort of the next couple of years. He will move on to bigger and better things. He is a very, very capable keeper, always improving. There are sort of elements and facets to his game that he does need to improve. I feel like his kicking is probably one of those, but as a shot stopper, he's brilliant.
But he's still a baby. I'm not being funny for a goalkeeper. He's still got loads of time, hasn't he? Like he's at 24. I mean, they say keepers don't come into their prime till they're pretty much 30, so loads of time to improve. But yeah, I suppose the flip side to that is if your goalkeeper's your best player, then it sort of illuminates the fact that there's a problem and you're having to do too much defensive work. Um, but yeah, like I say, been really impressed with him. At the other end, you've had problems though, Taylor. Goal scoring has been an issue. 18 in League Two so far, so less than a goal a game, just about. I think you've played. Oh no, you've only played 18. Sorry, because we've played our 19th game. I think no player's got more than three all season, which is why you're where you are. I mean, defensively, like you say, it's not too bad. You conceded 23 in the league. A lot of that might be down to Stanway, but 23 conceded in 18 games isn't a disaster. It's not bottom four, bottom six form. But then you couple it with the fact that you're struggling to put the ball in the net, it then does become an issue. Um, it's tough. We know that. Everyone wants a 20 goal a season striker. We want one at Gillingham, and we're probably more affluent than Barrow. We definitely are with the most respect. But people don't just give them away, do they? That's the thing. You can't just go, "Oh, I want a 20 goal striker. I'm going to go and get one." If clubs have got them, then they cost you a fair bit of money, or you get lucky with a free transfer. Um, what can be done to increase Barrow's output, though? Is it because, like you say, you're being hindered and Wings' arms are tied because of the fact that you can't play different systems because of the fact that there's lacks of players in different areas? Is it a case of just sort of muddling through to January and hoping that someone can wave a magic wand a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems that we had was we thought we had a proven goal scorer when we brought in Reece Healy,
Hmm.
and immediately he came on against Harrogate and he was gone. Off injured again,
Hmm.
which we knew fine well was going to be the concern with him. And unfortunately, the risk didn't pay off, and we've not seen him since. Apparently, he's not even registered to the squad now, and he was only here until January anyway. So we probably won't see him again. So then we then brought in Josh Gordon,
Hmm.
who you know what you're going to get with Josh Gordon. He puts himself about,
Hmm.
works hard, gets the odd goal, but he's not a proven goal scorer that's going to score you loads of goals.
Hmm.
And like you've said, it's difficult. You're not going to find those players easily. And a few seasons ago, we signed Dom Telford from Crawley, and he was sort of that striker that had proven that he can score goals in League Two, and it didn't work out
Hmm.
for one reason or another. So even if you do go and sign these players that have been there and proven it, you're not necessarily they're not going to necessarily do it for you, for one reason or another. Um, So our hands are tied. The system that we play is somewhat negative in the sense that I feel like it means that the creative players like Barkers and that can do well up top are sort of more hindered to focusing on the defensive side of things. And it often leaves the likes of Josh Gordon lumbered up front on his own, somewhat isolated, having to work hard in order to try and create a chance. Um, yeah, at the minute we've just got to wait until January. Obviously Healy will go back to Huddersfield, and maybe we'll use that loan slot effectively and find
Mhm.
someone on loan. Um, but like I've said, recruitment's been poor, so I'd be lying if I said I was confident that we'll be able to do that. But it remains to be seen. Hopefully, I'm proven wrong, and we do find someone that's able to stick a few goals in. But like I say, yeah, it's a case of waiting until January and just hoping for the best.
Yeah, never a great situation to be in. Right, looking at history in terms of games before we blow full time on this one. There's been 26 fixtures between the two sides in our history. Gills have won 12, Barrow have won 8, and there's been 6 draws. Gills have scored 39 goals and Barrow have scored 34. So it actually says it's quite a high scoring fixture. In Kent, 13 games, 8 wins for the Gills, just 2 for Barrow and 3 draws. We scored 27. That's ridiculously prolific for Gillingham and conceded 13. So, based on that and what you've told me, what's your score prediction for Saturday afternoon?
Honestly, it's really tough to say, especially with us, playing in midweek. We've
Mhm,
just come off the back of 90 minutes extra time penalties against
mhm,
Wigan. Um, didn't necessarily put in a great performance in the first half, but really battled well in the second half
mhm,
and into extra time. I'm assuming we're probably going to be a bit knackered tonight. Um, because we don't really have that squad depth to be able to rotate. So it'll leave us probably somewhat tired tonight and probably somewhat tired going into Saturday. Um, but I'm hoping we use Saturday that's been and gone to hopefully just prove that we can fight, that we can fashion chances and work hard. So obviously got to think there's a game tonight as well, so it can change things. But
mhm.
um, I think we've got to be somewhat confident. Obviously, Gillingham aren't necessarily playing the best football at the minute. Obviously on a decent run at the minute, but a lot of draws in there.
Mhm.
Um, so hopefully we can get a result. But if I'm being somewhat realistic about it, I do feel that Gillingham are just slightly better than us. And they'll probably just eke it out. I'd probably go 1-0 Gillingham.
It's fair enough. Yeah, and like you say, beat Tranmere in the week, and then suddenly Saturday you approach with a lot more confidence. It completely changes your outset, doesn't it? So your outlook, sorry. So it is a bit difficult. I understand that to ask you with another 90 minutes in the middle already. But yeah, on same lines, I've been a bit more confident. I've said 2-0 to Gillingham, based on our home form against you. Based on the fact that we are 5 unbeaten, albeit too many draws, like you've said. And I think in the last 2 home games against yourselves, we've won 3-0 and 2-0. So fingers crossed. Taylor, it's been a pleasure, mate. Like I say, really appreciate your time because I know you are off out to watch the game tonight, so I appreciate you coming on nice and early. Yeah, like I say, Gills fans, Barrow fans, and neutrals, if you are watching this at this point, thank you very much. Please go and give Taylor a follow. Knows his stuff about Barrow. Yeah, we'll be back Saturday for the match day live, of course. Let's go for 60 likes on this preview. So yeah, if you can go down there, press like. While you're there, please press subscribe. We are 7 away from 4K. Please press subscribe. There is a giveaway running on my X profile for anyone as soon as we get to 4K. But of course, main thing, as always, thanks for watching and up the Gills.